That was good. That was good. Okay, we thought we were
We
live,
thought
but
we
we
were
were
live,
not
but
live.
now we're live. We were just trying to see who would catch on to that. But
Yeah. After yesterday's debacle, I hate traveling. I just hate it.
I don't think you hate traveling. I just hate you.
Oh,
I think you hate the things that you have to go through when you travel because, the airlines want to charge you for every little thing.
yes. So
Yeah.
we are in chilly Manchester, United Kingdom for the week, and we're watching a cute kitty named Pete. But it was hell getting here. Oh my gosh. I mean,
Pete's over there chilling.
we didn't get to our hotel until 4:30 in the
In the
morning.
morning, y'all. We left Portugal. Well, we left to go to the airport at 4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the airline said we could have a personal item that was only 2 kilos, which is like what, 5 pounds?
Yeah, I don't see how you can travel anywhere with clothes, and I mean, not a lot of clothes.
No,
Not a lot of clothes. It
no,
wasn't stuff.
no,
I mean, my tennis shoes weigh that much.
exactly.
So how and of course, they're going to want to charge you extra monies.
It's just
Just
ridiculous.
crazy.
Going through security, going through customs or immigration, border control, it's just a pain in the butt. So I guess one of the compromises to that is slow travel.
Slow travel is a good thing. I mean, got your money together, get out there and do your thing and take your time as you do it.
So let's talk about the art of slow travel. But first, let's introduce ourselves.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, y'all. My name's Halisi.
And I'm Rick. Welcome to our Black Utopia.
On our channel, we talk about money, travel, and retiring abroad as we build generational wealth. So, who is our special guest today?
Our special guest today is best-selling author, romance author, Tiffany Patterson.
Yes, she is a subscriber and she is here in Portugal and on her way to Greece for a month. So, she is just living the life. But first, if you are new to our channel, then you might not know that about 6 years ago, Rick and I got a wake-up call. Our money was looking funny. We were getting close to retirement age, and we just did not see any way that we could retire. Right?
No, but no way. It's crazy.
Yeah, but about 3.5 years ago, we got our financial act together and we went from negative 22,000 to over 800,000 in net worth. And you can do the same because we have just released our new course, Beyond the Bling. You got to get beyond the bling, folks.
Yep.
It's our money mindset makeover for financial independence, and early enrollees get 4 group coaching sessions with us.
4 group coaching
Yes.
sessions.
And so the information is in the description below.
Sign up, y'all.
Yes. And then maybe you can join us and Tiffany on our travel endeavors out here in these international streets. Yeah, because yesterday
you can see the cat waving. That's not Peter. Peter's over there chilling.
Hey, Tiffany, how are you?
Tiff.
Hello, I'm good. How are you two doing after such a long day of travel?
Oh my gosh, 4:30 in the morning. So
that was
we're
12 hours of traveling for you.
Yeah, just to get across the pond. I mean, in Serio?
What's a 2-hour flight?
So yeah, it's a 2-hour flight.
2-hour flight.
It's a 2-hour flight. It was ridiculous. So we introduced you, but why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you are in the world?
Hi, I'm Tiffany Patterson. As stated, I'm a romance author. And I've been writing romance and publishing it since 2015. And that is my full-time career since 2017. And I'm currently in Porto, but I have been in Portugal, Lisbon since January 2nd.
And where are you off to next?
I'm off to Athens for 2 months. I will be there in February and March. And then last week, I just booked a 5-day trip to Santorini for my birthday, which is March 2nd.
So. We love
Have you been to Santorini?
No.
It is so beautiful. Oh my God, it's beautiful.
It really is picturesque.
And for Santorini, I decided to splurge, and instead of doing the Airbnb thing, I'm doing a luxury hotel.
Cool.
booking spas and all that because it's a birthday trip. So
Very
Definitely.
good.
Yeah.
Very good. Wish we could join you. But I think we are going to be stuck here not here in the UK, but in Portugal in that in between time. So y'all know the routine. Put a Q in front of your question and let's say hello to some folks now. Judith, I'm not even sure if Judith is still here
Judas
because
was signed in a while ago.
at 3:00 in the 3:00 in the morning. Well, maybe the morning here. I don't know when she signed it. I don't know. But hey, Judith, we know she's living her best life in Querétaro. Hey, Action VJ.
Action VJ.
Good to see you. And hit the like button. Yes. Also subscribe and share our content with your friends because, with all the craziness that's going on in the United States right now, and we saw it on the news when we were at the airport. Y'all don't even have to ask why we don't live there anymore. Share our information. Share our information. Hey, Auntie Trey. Be the set apart. I'm happy to be. Well, welcome. Is this a new name?
It's a new name.
Yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
Yes. Christy, good to see you. And Vanessa Ruiz. Summertime, good to see you. Hey, Vicky, good to see you. I said hey to Auntie Trey, right?
Yes.
Doing well. Thank you. You're very welcome. Aging Grateful. That sounds like a new name too. Or you haven't said anything lately. But welcome. We're glad you're here. Hey, Howard or Worldview. Now we know who you are. Yay. Yes. Tunisia, good to see you. Venus. Artwork Inside. Hey, that sounds like a new name as well. Elise McGee, good to see you. Hey, Greta. Hey, Greta. Nice to see you. And Chris, Holly from Buffalo, New York. Ooh, it's probably chilly up there too.
Yeah, probably a little chilly. Maybe not as well.
I don't know.
It's colder than it is here, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's in the 40s to 50s here, but there's the humidity, so it's cold. Y'all, we got diverted twice. So we got diverted from Manchester to Liverpool. And then Liverpool.
Never got to land in Liverpool.
No. And then Liverpool to Leeds.
I never heard of Leeds.
I had.
I didn't. I was like, Liverpool, that's where the Beatles are from.
Yep. So I was hoping we'd land in Liverpool because that's only 40 minutes away. Hey, Nubia Net. Okay. Judith is back in the chat. Great. Barbara, good to see you. And Meriton, I just saw you earlier on Rashida's channel because, it's all in the family, right? Elliot.
The cat is good, Greta. He's chilling.
Yeah.
He's a chill cat.
He's a chill cat.
He truly is.
So y'all know we are on our first international house sit. And Tiffany, have you ever house sat?
Yes. Only in San Antonio when I was living there. So I've done 2 different house sits in San Antonio.
Okay.
Not yet. I've applied to some, haven't gotten them yet.
Well, I only apply to ones that have either 1, 2, or no. So that I'm one of the first ones in there. Otherwise, it starts to be kind of competitive, and I'm not about that life. So, hey, Francis, Southern Rose T, Lucille, hello, family, welcome. So, Tiffany, how long have you been on this slow travel lifestyle? I guess
I just started this year, so January. Wow. I left the States. I packed up my stuff, my apartment and everything in San Antonio on December 29th, went to Jersey for a couple of days because that's where I'm from. That's where my family is. Spent New Year's with my family and left January 2nd, left January 1st, landed in Lisbon January 2nd. So
and we got to meet you January 7th.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you had just gotten here. Okay. Yeah. So why slow travel and why not? So this is not the trip of a lifetime. And when you say you packed up your apartment, so you don't have a home, quote unquote, in the States.
Nope. I sold my car, packed up, did not renew my lease. I have no actual physical residency. I have residency, right? Still digital mailbox and all that.
Right.
I don't have a place to go. I mean, I have family that I can go, but not one that I'm paying a mortgage or rent on. So slow travel for me. So like you were saying, you hate traveling, and I was thinking that as I was coming in on because I'm in Portugal, I was coming in on the train, and I was like, I hate traveling. And then my next thought is, if I hated traveling, I wouldn't be here, right? So I think the reality is, I hate travel days, right? They're just
Right.
uncomfortable. I don't like carrying the bags. I'm like awkward and short, and so carrying bags, I like always am tripping over myself, and it's annoying. And then there's the delays and blah blah blah. So I love traveling and seeing new places. The travel days are hard. So that's why slow travel for me. Plus, there's the money factor. If I'm traveling a new place every other week, that gets expensive. Also, I'm digital nomading, so I'm working. So I need to find a place where I can get into a routine where I can get in, however many hours of work, 5, 4 days a week, however many days I choose. So those are all the reasons why I opt for slow travel, and it just fits my personality better. Like I am a more of a go with the flow. I don't like to rush things type of person, and so if I was going to 4 different places, within a month, I would feel rushed. It ups my anxiety. So slow travel it is.
Yeah. And so many times as Americans, we um, come over here and think this is the trip of a lifetime. And then we try to pack in as much as we can
Mhm.
into 2 weeks or 3 weeks if we're really fortunate, and
And that's because we have limited days off, right?
Thank you.
Like
Yeah.
you have to
Yes.
get that in when you only have 5 days of PTO, you know. But hopefully that's changing. So
do we really think so?
I mean, changing, not necessarily companies are changing, but
But
when
people,
you have, like, work for yourself like I do, or you're able to work remote, that is changing for those who are able to do it.
So, when did you take the leap from working for someone else and writing, and then just writing full time?
Mhm.
And how did your lifestyle change? And what shifted inside of you? Because it's courageous. I mean, some people, like we were talking to one of our clients, and they're like, I've never not worked for someone.
Mm,
I don't even know what that would look like or how to do that.
yeah. So it was 2017, and I was working at like administrative work, something like that wasn't like what my degree is in or any field I saw myself in. So I wasn't extremely attached to it. Um, but I was going back and forth because I did still have that, like, can I make this work full time? Is it more responsible? Also, there was that fear of, if I turn this thing that I love, this creative outlet that I'm having fun with and is
Yeah.
doing well, if I turn that into a full-time career, will that take some of the magic out of it, right? Will I not want to do it? So it took me months, a while, um, to like make the decision. And the reality is like when I started making more money from writing, um, than from like my it wasn't full time, but I was working full time hours from that full time job. Then it was like it's kind of a no brainer at that point, you know.
yeah.
So
And did the magic dissipate?
no, no, I still love writing. I love storytelling and craft. I even like enjoy the business side of it. I have an MBA, and so some of those technical skills that I learned while getting my degree, I can apply to what I'm doing. So it's interesting. I love, actually, like, the industry is constantly changing. It's different now than it was 5 years ago. I'm indie published, so indie publishing moves like lightning speed compared to like traditional publishing. Um, but sometimes it's a pain, like, not gonna lie. And then, particularly like the last couple of months, I found myself like doing much more like administrative work than actual writing. Um, which at this point in my career, I have over 30 books, is necessary for continuous marketing. But the magic is still there. Like I just finished writing my blurb for my next book, and I like was geeking out all over social media because I'm like, I love this blurb so much. It makes me want to read my own book, and I haven't written.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So tell us, okay, so you were working for yourself, basically. You were doing your passion on your own in the States, and then decided why'd you leave?
So there's so many things, right? You know how like there's stepping stones, right? Like that decision for me at least just doesn't happen overnight. So I think the biggest leap towards this, what I'm doing now, was I moved from New Jersey to San Antonio. And part of that was financial reasons. I was paying off a boatload of debt at the time, and Texas had a lower cost of living. Um, and then about three, no, maybe like 2.5 years into that, I found Stephanie Perry on YouTube. And I swear her like video was just recommended out of nowhere because I don't think I had been looking up like travel videos at the time because I was very focused on like paying off debt, like I'm not traveling anywhere, maybe in the future. But then I found Stephanie Perry and I started watching more in her videos. And, once Stephanie's recommended, then you get Rashida and you get Adelia and, all of the Black women travelers. And so I started watching more and more of those videos. And then at the top of 2021, I had been watching what's their name? The couple who talks about finance that moved to Portugal. They're financially
Our
independent.
Rich Journey.
Yeah,
Yes,
Christina and Nomad.
I had subscribed to them years earlier for the finance stuff. And and I was like, whenever like the Portugal videos came up, I was like, I don't really care about that. But then somewhere along the line, I realized like Portugal, years ago in college, I had said Portugal was going to be my safe country because this was like during the war on terror and all that stuff. And I was like, I'm moving to Portugal because like you never heard about them in the news. They weren't causing drama. Terrorists weren't trying to bomb them, all that stuff. So as I'm like watching these videos, that memory starts to come back to mind. And I'm like, I want to traveling. So over the past year, I've been looking into, I was, just researching digital nomading, like what would it take? I knew I could take my career on the road because as long as I have an internet connection, I can write my books, my laptop and the internet, so I can do that. I knew I could do that. It was also like there was family stuff, and I'm like, could I work with that family stuff on the road? How will I stay in touch with, my people here in the US and all of that? So it was really like once I made that decision, it was working out the mechanics. So it probably took over a year. And I don't know when I said like I'm definitely doing it. I think it was when I just failed to not failed, but I didn't renew my lease. That usually happens in August, and I was like, I'm going. So yeah.
That's funny because when we found Our Rich Journey, I didn't watch any of the money stuff. I only wanted to watch the Portugal stuff. Was our money straight? No. I was skipping over that. Enough of that. Let's see where I want to see Lisbon. I want to see. So you had some sense.
Well, for a lot of years, I didn't have sense. That's why I had the debt, and I had to like buckle down. So
yeah, we understand that. We definitely understand that. Yeah, Greta says Our Rich Journey. Thank you, Gangsta Stalking, Simulation. Thank you. And I want to thank, where is he? Dr. Phil. Always coming through. Y'all know that all of our super chat, super thanks money, super sticker money goes to our scholarship fund. The last time we ran a challenge, we gave away 4 scholarships. Yeah. And so we definitely want to give some away with the early enrollment. So this is a self-paced course, so it's only the early enrollee folks who will get the live Q&As.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
On Zoom. Yes. So thank you, Dr. Phil, as always, for helping the community. We love it. So, yeah, as far as Our Rich Journey, I didn't have good sense. I was only paying attention to the Portugal stuff. So was it any of the nonsense going on in the States? Did that factor into it?
Oh, that definitely helped push like Yeah, I remember couple months ago, I had a conversation with, I was having a conversation with a friend, and this is an older white woman. And this was just after that shooting in New York in the grocery store, right, where a Black community was targeted. And we weren't talking about that. And I was telling her, like, oh, I'm thinking of, digital nomading, and I want to start in Europe because I haven't been to Europe yet, and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I don't know. It's, it doesn't feel like Europe's that safe right now, because she was talking about the war on between Ukraine and Russia happening. And I was like, but it doesn't feel very safe here. And she was like, oh yeah, that, like there wasn't much pushback on that, because it was the grocery store, and then like not even a week and a half later was the children in the elementary school in Texas. And I was in San Antonio, so that's not even a 90-minute drive literally from where I was living. And so I'm like, war is not fun, and no, right, not safe, but also like living in the US, walk into a grocery store
is constant war, constant terrorism.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. It's terrorism, and the politicians refuse to call it that, but that's exactly what it is. And they have breeded a community of terrorists that mainly prey on people of color, but also prey on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they didn't expect. That's the part they didn't expect. So
like once you create the monster, you can't dictate where it goes, right?
No.
Right. Exactly. So I saw some questions. I've got more questions too, but I don't want to put off the questions this time. So let's go ahead. Where did I see?
I saw one to us.
I see one.
It's further down. So y'all put a Q in front of your questions, because
What was further up, the one I had seen?
Oh, I thought so. I thought I saw one.
It said Rick and Halisi.
Okay. Let's see. Hey, Rick and Halisi, how was flying the TAP?
Yeah.
So the flight itself was fine. And, but I made the mistake, Greta, of booking the last flight of the day when we had to be someplace the next day. I will not do that again. Now, the good part about that was the food was on sale. It was discounted because they were trying to get rid of it. And it was actually good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
We got different things. So the food was pretty good. It was a short flight. So when we flew on TAP from the United States to Cancun, they had screens on the back of the.
You mean from Portugal?
From Portugal to Cancun. They had screens and stuff on the back of the.
Yeah, on the seats.
Yeah, on the seats.
Like
but
that.
This one
didn't.
This one did not.
Maybe longer flights you have that.
But. Yeah, because it was only supposed to be 2 hours. Will Portugal be your home base and you travel elsewhere from there? Tanisha asks.
No, as of right now, no. So I'm fully like digital nomading, where I have all my belongings in a suitcase and I'm traveling from country to country. In the future, that is a possibility. But I'm thinking of a couple different places that might be my home base. I'm kind of behind Spain's new digital nomad visa. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about Lisbon. And part of it could be just because it's been so cold, and I really don't like cold. And so
you are a Texan.
I am. After even just 4 years, I'm like.
So yeah, because it's not cold to me. This is cold, but we're from Denver.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the southern part as well. So, once you are out of the Shenzhen area for a while, then come back during the spring or the summer, and see if you can put up with 2 months or 3 months of cold for 9 months of lovely. Because it was, when we got here in September, it was lovely. It was perfect. It was perfect. So this is not necessary. So Portugal's not necessarily going to be your home base. And the next is Greece. Do you have your next trip planned?
You mean after Athens?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have my whole year planned because I wanted to leave room for um, whatever might come up. Like if I try to plan at least a month or two in advance, but I wanted to leave room for like I didn't want to plan 6 or 12 months out in case I wanted there's somewhere else I want to go, um, or God forbid, there's some sort of emergency and I need to go back. Um, so I only have the next 2 months planned. In my head I have them planned. I think after Greece, I'm going to Turkey because I have to get out of the Schengen zone, and Turkey's right next to Greece, so that just makes sense to me. Um, but I haven't decided if I want to do 2 or 3 months in Turkey because also I just found an article on Albania, which is not part of the Schengen zone. So I may do 2 months in Turkey and then go to Albania, or plus I
There's
don't know in July and August. I would be by then I would be able to come back to the Schengen countries, but also that's high tourist season, and I know everything's gonna be more expensive, and so I don't know if I want to do like Spain or Italy or even France during that time.
Okay.
could be house sit season.
That's true. I have been looking at house sits, and mostly I've just been finding them in the UK, which is good. I've applied for a few. Um,
The
so
UK, you could house sit year round.
oh yeah, there's a ton.
You could
There's
just go from house sit to house sit. Croatia also is there, and it's not in the Schengen.
Yeah, they just got admitted
Oh,
Yeah.
in
did they?
yeah,
Yeah.
and
I heard that.
20 to 23, they just got admitted. So
Well, I'm glad we didn't plan.
I know because we were planning on going to Croatia
just
Yeah.
to split.
Croatia and Bulgaria applied because it happened right before I left because I was eyeing those two. And maybe it was other countries, but I know Croatia and Bulgaria, and Croatia was accepted, Bulgaria wasn't.
See, and I think they should have accepted the Ukraine at least into the EU
Mm,
when they applied, and then we might not be having this war right now.
yeah.
Of course, they might have just moved over to Turkey. So yeah, that's. I was going to ask you as well. How far in advance are you planning the trip? So where in Turkey are you thinking of?
I'm going to do some time in Istanbul. I haven't decided if I want to do like a full month in Istanbul or at least like just the first week. But definitely Istanbul. I want to go to Cappadocia because as I'm terrified of heights, but I want to do a hot air balloon ride. Um, and I love hiking, and I think you can get some good. I think there's like a national park out in Cappadocia, um, and then Antalya, and there's another guy I follow who's a digital nomad. He was somewhere in Turkey. I can't remember the name, but he said it's a little less expensive than Antalya. So I'm eyeing those places.
Okay. So for someone who wants to follow in your footsteps and slow travel, as you said, you have your whole life with you.
Hmm.
Tell us about that process from going from, because it's not like you're 22, right? You a grown woman, you grown ass woman, right? With stuff and things, right? So you went from your, normal American life down to having, did you put anything in storage? Is it at Big Mama and them's house?
It is at so I have 2 boxes, mostly of like documents, a few keepsakes. I'm not so I have an advantage in that I'm not the type of person who likes to hold on to a lot of stuff. And I have moved a decent amount in my life. And like I'm the type of person, like when I'm moving, everything gets thrown out. Like before I was leaving San Antonio, I had like going away dinners and stuff with friends. And I was saying, like, do not get me gifts because they will go in the trash. Like 100%. Um, don't get me anything. So I like to call myself a minimalist. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's how I think of myself.
Yeah.
I know the furniture I had, I knew when I bought it, it wasn't going to stay with me long term. It was just something to like make me a little comfortable. Um, the stuff that I do have, did pack up 2 boxes, and they are at my brother's right now.
Okay.
So he was great. Him and his wife were gracious enough to let me keep my stuff there. So I do have a couple of boxes, but the only other big thing I really had was my car, and I sold that. That was kind of the hardest decision because, in the US, a car equals freedom, right? Like if you don't have a car, even in a big city like San Antonio, you don't have a car, you can't get anywhere. So that was kind of I wouldn't say hard to let go of, but it was the one that like gave me the most pause.
Hmm.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean,
Yeah,
is if I lived in Manhattan, then perhaps not, right?
right.
But any almost any other city, and especially in Denver, where the metro system is, teeny weeny and only gets you to one place. And we sold Rick's car, then we sold my car, and yeah, it
Yeah.
Yeah,
was
that's
we were kind of a little up in our feelings about the whole thing, but it was nice to get the money as well.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
definitely.
the silver lining, of course, is that as soon as I got paid for it, I put that money in my brokerage account, and so it's earning interest as we not interest, what is it, or gains or whatever as we speak. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah. The market's been up a bit. I've seen.
So, how do you feel in your travels? How does it affect your work and your writing? Do you find more romantic places to write and create characters from, or?
Good
Um,
question.
it hasn't. I wouldn't say it's influenced my writing as of yet. Um, I let me see. I'm trying to think because I there have been some. So I have been inspired a little bit. There's actually one scene for my next book that I'm thinking of basing in Santorini between the couple because like I'm going there. It's beautiful. It's like perfect for a romance spot. Um, but so far, I wouldn't say it has greatly influenced what I'm writing. And it could just be because like it's still percolating, right?
Mhm.
I need time to let the creativity juices do what they do. So I definitely believe it will impact my writing. Um, but even before I left, actually, I published my last book I published was in November. It was a Christmas novella, and one of the things or the main thing the heroine wanted in that um, story was to do an around the world trip with her family. Um, and part of it was because she had just like battled breast cancer and was in remission, and so she was like, "I'm going to take a once in a lifetime trip." But that storyline was definitely influenced by like my own personal desire to travel.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how has your psyche or your body reacted to being out of the States? It's been almost 2 months now.
Hmm.
Um, not getting, not, you said you barely paid attention to the news, but you can't avoid it,
Right. Oh yeah.
especially, going into any place that you go, they've got something on, and it's
Mhm.
hard to totally avoid it. But have you felt a difference in your psyche since you've left?
Um, I wouldn't say not that I've noticed.
Okay.
Not that I've noticed. I because one, when I was living in Texas, I believe I was pretty grounded there. Like I had a really good strong network of friends. I spent a good amount of time outdoors hiking, camping, things like that. And avoiding the news. And so that I think put me in a position where I was already kind of in a I'm gonna say a zen state, but like a, kind of less chaotic,
Stressed out.
stressed out state. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the fact that I work from home. And so I didn't have to do like the whole, commuting to work every day and all of that stuff. So that already
Yes.
kind of had going for me. Um, and now because I'm actually like doing stuff that I didn't do in the US, like working at a co-working space or going to a co-working space, a couple of times a week. Um, I wouldn't say it has stressed me, but it has given me a perspective on like how things could be different in the US, right? Like if we had just more public transportation, how less stressed would people be because they wouldn't spend hours, a week in traffic, right?
Mhm.
It's so convenient to get around and just the increased physical activity, right? Like from walking wherever up and down the steps, right? So those things I have like kind of thought about, but I wouldn't say I've noticed an immediate like change in my stress levels.
So we'll have to have you back when we do our singles of the international streets.
How do you feel as far, or do you ever get the question a lot of safety? Being
Mm.
outside the United
Yeah.
States, traveling as a single
Solo.
black woman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So I was just 2 days ago. I was in an Uber, and I get the question often, like because I do, walking tours or weekend tours or whatever, and so many people are like, "You're single and by yourself and you're traveling." Oh, I was on a walking tour yesterday morning here in Porto. It was an African colonial tour hosted by a Black woman here in Porto. I recommend. So if you're ever here, um, but she was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't like travel by myself." She was saying she could do when she was younger, and I'm like, "Yeah, well, I do." But like that's kind of just my personality. I've always kind of been like an introvert and independent, and like there's stuff that I want to do that maybe not everyone else is able to. Like, how many people are able at this stage in life to pick up and travel around the world or even willing to do it?
right.
Um, and so I'm like, well, I could stay where I'm at, but there are other parts of the world that I want to see. So I can't like wait on someone else to do it. So,
That
um,
right there.
and there's always the safety thing, right? Like I said, I hike a lot in San Antonio, and you will every time you say you hike, at least one person is going to say, "Oh, don't go by yourself. Single woman
Right.
shouldn't hike by herself." I hike by myself often. I did it with a group most often, with friends, just because it was an activity we enjoyed. But like, I do stuff by myself because if people aren't available to do it with you, or am I just supposed to sit in the house? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So were these black folks or just folks in general?
folks in general, folks in
Interesting.
But
Interesting.
and because my friends, like, I did not have one friend in San Antonio who, when I said I'm thinking of digital nomading, said, "Oh, don't do it. It's not safe." Every single one was like, "You should do it. I wish I could." Blah blah blah. Like I remember being on a hike, and I was like, the one thing at that point that was holding me back from saying yes, I'm going to do this. I was like, I don't know what I would do with like my mail. I get stuff and like blah blah blah. And then someone was like,
Logistics.
"Oh, because yeah, it was logistics." And another one was like, "Oh, do what van lifers do, or people who travel or whatever do. They have like a digital mailbox." That was the first time I ever heard of a digital mailbox. Um, so it was just like is serendipity the right word I'm looking for? It was just like I was with the right people who, you know, were like when I said I want to do this, they all were like encouraging, and my family also was encouraging. So
Oh, that was my next
Yes. Yeah.
question about your family. So, if you could afterwards give us the information for the digital mailbox, because I know we're going to get questions about that. So, if you're watching live, it will be after this. We will put it in the description as well as the Porto tour.
yes.
Okay, great, 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 great. And then let's talk about the money a little bit. Greta says she was so happy to see a great jobs report from the White House this week. The stock market and my 401k reacted very positively, and ours did too. I went on Fidelity for some other reason, but I was like, oh, hey, yay! I'm seeing some, some. I have. I'm invested in Alta, and
Oh,
Alta, the beauty supply place,
oh, okay.
has the when they and now this is not a recommendation, y'all. But I'm just saying this is how I look at stuff. First, I invest in what I know, and then second, I do research on the company. And they said they were going into Target stores,
Mm.
and I already shopped there.
Oh,
So
the Target and Sephora is already there. That's interesting.
I don't think Sephora is in Target. I think Sephora is in, where did I see?
No, they just
They
started.
might have just
Like
started.
my
Huh. Maybe it depends on the neighborhood, because
yeah.
that's interesting that they would put. But yeah, they made an announcement last year, and that stock is up 45%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
Can I tell
lovely.
you, I'm
But
happy I did not listen to my accountant. And he's not my financial, he's my tax accountant. But I had a meeting with him before I left, and I was telling him, I'm selling my car and I'm planning on investing. And he was like, yeah, you probably should wait until March because that's when we're expecting the market to go up. And as soon as he said it, I was like, no, I'm
that
not
makes
listening.
no sense.
I don't time the market. I was like, dude, I don't time the market, right? Like I invest in index funds and I let them do what they do. And so when I got paid, when I sold my car, I invested. And so like if I had listened to him, I would have missed out on these little bumps that have been, occurring the last few
And
weeks.
you
So,
wouldn't have been able to buy as low, right? You wouldn't have been able to
right,
buy as many shares, right? You
right,
you own the amount of shares you own the amount of shares you own. And so if the shares are worth um, you know, $30 a share yesterday and then tomorrow they're going to be worth $50 a share. Well, you don't want to buy less shares at $50 a share.
right.
Black folks do that. Like it of any other group I've read that we do that the most. We sell when the market goes down and buy as it's coming back up. And we lose so much money.
I think we get
Trying
hit by the
to time the
fear
market.
factor.
It's fear,
It's
right? It's
fear.
fear because
Right.
Big Mama and them did not believe in the banks, and for good reason because they lived through the Great Depression, right? They did not believe in the banks. They had their envelope system and their mattress system and this and that and the other, and they were shut out of the stock market for so many decades.
Hmm.
So I understand, but we have got to get past that. So you said you had a lot of debt and you turned your life around financially so that now you have the freedom to be wherever on this planet you want to be, as long as the passport as our passport holds.
Right.
So what did you do?
So let's see. It started 2017, late 2017. I had a come to Jesus moment, right? Where I was like, I had just gone full time a few months earlier, and I had a come to Jesus moment, and I was like, my finances are a mess. I've avoided looking at this debt, which is 90% of it was student loan debt. And I'm scared, but I know I need some help. And so, um, out of nowhere, I started hearing about this guy called Dave Ramsey.
Ah,
Um, Literally, like I started seeing him on social media, right? Someone I met mentioned his book, and I was like, okay, I think this is like my answer to what I've been praying about for. So I bought the book. Um, I can't remember the name of the book. The 7 baby steps, right? And so he was my introduction. So I had read. I To make this even more embarrassing, I have a MBA with a concentration in finance, right? I've read a lot of finance books back in college in my early to mid 20s. I really wanted to do better with finances, but it was, how like the saying, when you know better, you do better. It's not 100% true because like I knew like I need to be saving, I need to have an emergency fund, but I had this block. I couldn't get it together. So it took me, years. And so it was finally in late 2017, I bought Dave Ramsey, and that was the first time I ever sat down and totaled all my debt. And I cried when I saw that number, literal tears, because
oof.
6 figures,
Okay,
six.
I was going to ask if you would mind sharing. So 6 figures. Okay.
I will tell you the number, $182,000. Yeah,
Hi. Ooh, almost two. Ooh. Ooh, ow.
because
And
that
most
was
of it was student loans?
most of it was student loans because it was undergrad. I had consolidated all of my undergrad debt, and so I had 2 main undergrad loans that I had put off for years and years and years and years, and that interest, by then it was private, and so that interest was just accruing. And then it was grad school. So those 2 alone, undergrad and grad, came out to be like 160 something. So then
That just
I had
that's one of the problems with America. I mean, it's not like you were okay. I hear about another 22,000 in credit card debt. I'm assuming, but like I can see my way around 22,000. No one should have to go into
But
six
it
figure
wasn't
debt
even
to go to
credit card debt.
school.
It was like 13 of it was my car,
Oh, okay, that
and
doesn't
then the
count if
rest
unless you're
was
upside down.
IRS, and then
Okay.
some of it was credit card. Like
Okay.
less than like 2,000 of it was credit card debt.
Okay, so that's nothing. I mean, it's something, but
Mm.
it's nothing in comparison. People should just not, six figures is just crazy. Just crazy.
It was disgusting.
So
But
how
like
did you do it?
I so
Oh, I'm
rough.
glad. Arnell, you guys are seeing us on Facebook. Great. Yay. Hi. Hi, Facebook. Hi, LinkedIn. So how did you get rid of $182,000 worth of debt?
So I read Dave Ramsey and I was like, I can't do this. And then this is gonna sound crazy, but like I literally, as I was crying that moment, I was like, I can't do this. And that thought, that phrase that, a lot of Black people say, right? If he brings you to it, he'll bring you through it. And I was like, okay, like that. I felt like that was my higher power saying, like, I've got your back. I'm the one who like introduced you to this program. Just follow the directions, right? Just follow the baby steps, right? Because at that time, like the debt was so crushed or felt so crushing that like I couldn't feel like I couldn't strategize on my own, right? So I needed like instructions, right? Like you just pay off your smallest amount, right? Like I had to do the snowball instead of what's the other one, the one where you
Avalanche.
Avalanche.
avalanche, right? Where you think about I couldn't even think about the interest. I just like focus on the smallest one.
Yeah.
So that's literally what I did. I was, like I said, I was working full time as an author by then, but I also started taking on um, jobs through a
Temp
hiring agency
agency.
or whatever, temp agency, right? So like weekend jobs here and there, $100 or whatever I got paid. As soon as I got paid, it was going to my credit card, right? And then so I started that at the end of like October, so November. By like mid December, I had paid off my first debt, and like it was, I mean, in comparison to what I had, right, it was nothing, but it was huge because I was like, I don't have to worry about my credit card payment next month because that debt is gone, right? And that was it. Like the snowball method worked. At least it worked for me. So it was really just one debt at a time, staying focused on that one debt. And then thankfully, like my income started increasing. I had kind of a breakout series in 2018. It's still my best-selling series. It was Four Brothers, and I was able to pay off two two of my graduate student loans that my mom had co-signed on. I paid those off, and like that was another proud moment because like my mom had some serious health issues happening in 2018, and I held a lot of guilt over that debt because like when I failed to pay, she was also getting the letters and all that stuff. So it really was just one at a time. And then at the end of 2018 is when I made the decision to move to San Antonio for the lower cost of living. And what
Ah,
I didn't know is that Texas doesn't have
income
state
tax.
tax.
Yeah.
So I really was like, I know like this is like the hand of God like helping me, like I'm not doing this on my own. Um, and like during the process, it felt slow. It took 4 years to pay off, exactly 4 years, because October 2021 is when I made my final debt payment. Um, but it was so worth it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I know someone who sold her condo and paid off her student loan and moved back in with mom.
mm, mm,
Right, you should not have to do that.
right.
Let's see, how do you decide which countries and when you are going to them and for how long?
Good question. So I've decided to start in Europe because I lived in Costa Rica for a year after college. I've traveled to Mexico, Panama, Nicaragua. And so I was like, I haven't been to Europe yet. So that's why I'm starting in Europe. I wanted to check out Liz or Portugal first. One, because, it's literally one flight from Newark Airport, which my brother lives 30 minutes from Newark. Um, I was like, if everything goes right in Portugal, then that'll give me more confidence to go to the next place. So that's why I started in Portugal. That's why I started in Europe. And it's just so many countries that I want to see around the world. So I have a mental list, but I want to get everywhere,
Mm.
like I saw someone, I went out earlier and did the teleferico here. And I got on the tram or whatever it is, and
Right.
two people were from Poland, and I was like, Poland's on my list, even though it's really not. Like, but I'm like, I'm here, so I need to go to Poland.
Well, I
So
heard they have really good food, which you wouldn't expect.
I wouldn't. It's so cold. I don't know
Right?
any cold
Ex-
place with good food, but
exactly. So, but once I heard that, shoot, good food, I'm there. So, is there any place that has joined your list in the past couple of months that you never would have considered besides Poland?
mm, Albania, but like the Bulgaria, even Croatia, like I guess that's called the Balkans,
Baltics.
the Baltics. I never would have thought. Like I was always like Western Europe, like that's all of Europe, right? So
Right,
like
right.
Finland, Spain, Italy, Portugal, like yeah, duh, I got to get there. But the Balkans I hadn't considered, but because I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos of other digital nomads and just like couples who are traveling, who have retired earlier and traveling, a lot of them have visited the Balkans, Romania, Albania, Bulgaria, and like it looks beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, definitely want to see Eastern Europe. And, I mean, I remember when the Berlin Wall fell.
I remember.
And, none of those countries were accessible I mean, they were accessible, but they weren't accessible, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you heard stories of people getting stuck and trapped or whatever, and they won't let them leave, and all this other nonsense unless you were the big tour group. And so now that they're not under the USSR, part of the USSR, the world.
Mhm.
So, Alice or Elise, I think it's Alice. Do you have a travel medical coverage you use as you travel abroad?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I actually can't remember the name of it. I have it with me, but I'm just looking up the name of my provider. Yeah, so I definitely made sure to get travel insurance, and not actually it's not just travel insurance, right? It's travel health insurance. Um, so that I'm covered in case of emergency. That's something I'm definitely like aware of. Why can't I find it? I printed out like my travel coverage, and like what's it like when you had laminated it,
Hmm.
but for some reason I can't find it. I think it's
Did
in
you
my
did you
backpack.
tell us it was a Lions, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, I used Alliance actually when I went last year to Mexico. Um, this is let me look at my phone.
It's not Safety Wing, is it?
It's not Safety Wing because I knew they didn't have the coverage that I was looking for, or enough of the coverage I was looking for.
Okay.
It's uh, why can't I find it? Sorry,
Well,
I should.
we that's okay. We'll put it in the description below. Um,
IMG. Sorry. Yes,
go ahead.
it is IMG. Not the expat insurance, but it is travel medical insurance.
IMG.
So it's
Okay.
like full health insurance. So which is what I wanted, because I'm like, if I get somewhere and I'm like have a broken leg, like I don't want just the basic, like
Right.
we'll cover your bags, your suitcase. I'm like, no, I need health insurance. I know like abroad, health insurance tends to be, less expensive than in the US, but I want the full coverage to know I'm covered. So
Yeah, and we'll put our insurance down there too. And I don't think it's IMG. I can't remember. So because we're double covered right now until through March, we have our Portuguese insurance, and then we have travel insurance that covers us through the whole
Right.
Schengen
Our
area.
Our Portuguese insurance covers us in Spain also.
Oh, that's
wow,
right.
that's
Covers us
cool.
covers us in Spain and Portuguese. I think the company is actually out comes out of Spain.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. What is one of the biggest surprises you discovered being a digital nomad abroad? Good question.
Hmm. This may sound ignorant, but I was kind of surprised at how I like that English isn't as widely spoken as I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I 100% understand I'm in a new country. I need to at least try to practice their language and learn it. But I did not, before I left, I didn't really start taking Portuguese lessons or anything like that because one, I was just so focused on like work and packing up and all the
Right.
mess that comes with all of that. So it just didn't have a lot of time. But also, Portuguese is more difficult than I expected because I do speak Spanish. I minored in Spanish in college. I lived in Costa Rica for a year. So I wouldn't call myself fluent anymore because I haven't practiced in a lot of years, but I'm decent in Spanish. And so I thought years for a while, I thought like, oh, my Spanish, I can do Portuguese, no problem. No. The words are similar. If I see something written, oftentimes I can rely on my Spanish to decipher what that word means.
Right.
When they say it out loud, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Right. It sounds like a mix between French and some Eastern European language,
Yes.
um, but not when Brazilians speak it. To me,
Really?
anyway. Yeah. To me, when Brazilians speak it, it sounds more lyrical, like Spanish.
And that makes sense, right? Because like you're on the continent in South America with a lot of other Spanish speakers, so you would think there's some more influence there.
Yeah.
But I did not expect that.
So, safest place to travel to. Is
Mm.
there any place that has, and so you've kind of talked about that. So, with that, I want to ask, are there any places that did not make your list because you didn't feel they were safe enough?
There is one place that it's on my list. I'm just hesitant about going by myself, and that is actually there are two places that I really want to go. Morocco and Egypt.
I knew you were
I
going to say that.
have
I
not
knew you were going to say that. It's
I have
notorious.
not heard good I mean, not good things. I haven't heard, like, anyone being hurt or anything like that, but I just have heard,
I have.
other women in particular, like, warning other women against traveling solo to those countries. Um, and so they are on my list of places to get to eventually, but it would have to be a group thing.
Yeah.
And I was eyeing it for, what is it? Stephanie
Exodus.
and for Exodus Summit, but the timing just didn't work out. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And they sold out so fast
and they sold out really fast.
in 20 hours or something crazy.
Yeah.
So I have a colleague slash associate who was in a Stephanie Perry class with me who moved over there. And she loves it.
Where to
In
Morocco?
Morocco, yeah, but I don't know that she's in Marrakesh. I can't remember. But she is Muslim, and so I'm wondering if that has anything to do with her
Mm,
not being an obvious American, because she is American, and once she opens her mouth, she can't get away from that. So,
right.
right. So, Auntie Trey, so when you say you have to get out of the Shenzhen, is that because of the tourist visa guidelines?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's 90 days. And then I guess every 6 months you can do 90 days.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's 90 days every 6 months. So basically 90 days twice a year,
Right. So you could be here 6 months out of the year total, but not all in one chunk.
not back to back. Right.
Art work insight. Is a film adaptation anywhere in your future?
Possibly. I mean, never say never. Um, but at this point, it's not something that I have been approached about, or even something that is really time consuming. So it's not something I've really put on the forefront.
Right. Right. That she's so Hermes addict. Um, and I'm I'm assuming it's Hermes, like
Hermes,
the ones that do the scarves and all of that she stuff in
the
France. Uh,
watches, sure.
that's so inspiring. I've wanted to write. I love creativity. Yeah, I'm going to tell you. So I've been working on a novel since 2012. And when Stephanie started her co-writing in the morning on her other channel, Stephanie Perry Media, I decided to pull it back out. And I'm having a ball. I don't know if anybody will ever read it besides Rick. And he wasn't even impressed. He was like, well, I don't know what's going on. I said, but I know what's going on and I love it. Look at my beautiful words there and my beautiful descriptions. And the story has been percolating so I know how it ends, but I've got to create the scenes that will justify the ending. I've written screenplays, and that's the problem. Because screenplays is like, and then we will see, because I'm telling the director how you going to direct this. And so when I write screenplays, I write them like novel, but the wording is different because it's not going to be read by the public. It's only going to be read by the writers, the actors, the other writers, the actors, and the director. And so
I read a lot of screenwriting books, because at the heart of it, you're still telling a story, right? And story is the
yes,
same whether it's on a book,
yes,
if it's on the screen, if it's in a song, right? Story is story. And so a lot of the elements in screenwriting, craft books are beneficial for authors.
yes, yes, definitely. So I took Robert McKee's story structure decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to teach story structure as well. But this feels different, a little
Yeah.
scary, because I revert back to the language of a screenplay. And
Mm-hmm.
so the story structure. Yeah, that part is not as scary. But now that I'm past getting the beats down and I'm trying to write the thing,
You got to fill it out. Yeah.
and do I write in third person or first person? You don't think about that for screenplays,
That's
you
true.
know?
That's true too. Yeah. Yeah. If there's also a book I just read the beginning of this year, and it's so good, and it helps narrow down story. The Nutshell Method by, I can't think of her name. No, is it the Nutshell Method or Nutshell Technique by Jill Chamberlain? So good. It
Okay.
so good.
Okay. I've got 2 more credits before I cancel my, what is it?
Audible?
Yep. I'm
You're
canceling that crap.
canceling?
I'm canceling. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm not paying for that stuff that I can get at the library. But I
Mm.
meant to get the free 2 books and then cancel it. And I kept forgetting. So I've added books that I really, really want, So I've added 1 writing book already, and then I'm going to get Michelle's latest book, and my good friend Michelle,
Michelle who?
Obama, my good friend Michelle
I
Obama.
was like, I was in my head like, has she ever been on the show? I don't know.
I have met her, but I've just met her, and in a line with a bunch of other people who were just meeting her and taking a photo.
With security with guns on the other side
Right.
of the line.
Exactly. um, but the nutshell technique. I got it.
Yeah, I
All
love
right.
that. It can be dangerous. Because I had Audible for almost a year before I really started listening to audiobooks. It takes me a while to get on trends. And then I started listening like maybe the middle of last year. I really started listening. And then I felt more comfortable buying more credits because like I paid off my debt, right? So I have extra money per month or whatever. And there was one author I kind of like got into a kick on her books. And so I was just buying, and she's been in the game for years and years. So she has a lot of books. So
It's easy to binge, and I start with binging all of the Black authors that I want to read. And but we've been doing audiobooks since we started driving across country, so it's been decades. And
Mm,
y'all, if you haven't gotten on the tip of getting a library card everywhere you live, especially if they don't require you to renew it.
Mm,
Then I get on my Libby. I've got two places in Colorado, two city cards in Colorado, and then LA. And between the three of them, I can usually find stuff. Um, but yeah, 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 yeah. So, are your books on audio?
not all of them. I am putting more effort into so my series that I mentioned that I wrote in 2018. All of those books are now on audio. Just I just got them up by the end of last year.
Great,
Um, and so now I'm starting to go through my backlist and putting more in audio.
Mm.
So
great. And I know the ones that I was listening to, the Fireman series, those are
mhm.
audio.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's good about that series because it I self-published the ebooks and the paperbacks, but the audio I signed with a publisher, and so I kind of just like forget about those.
yeah, I've just written so much, I just can't keep it all in my brain, sorry about that. Um, so Greta asked, did you invest while you were paying off your debt?
I didn't. I didn't. I went straight Dave Ramsey, right? And so he says halt everything, and that at that point I didn't have a 401k to invest in. Um, and so and at that point I hadn't created my LLC just yet, and so I wasn't technically an employee of my own company.
Right.
Um, and so I like wasn't collecting a paycheck to be able to like invest in all of that stuff. So I didn't. I do now, of course. So yeah.
Those private student loans, they should be against the law. They should be against the law with and they the adjustable rates and all of that, they should be against the law. I mean, they it's just ridiculous.
They were hard.
So y'all,
They were
for
hard.
your if you still have kids who are going to go to college, please check out European colleges.
Mm,
One, they're either free, or two, they're very low cost. You might even be able to write a check. And so if you've got a, if it, I think when you, as far as paying off debt or student loans, I think it depends on how old you are, how much debt you have, and what you're trying to do. Um, like if she had a 401k, I would have said continue. If a 401k through her job and they're taking out 3% and they're matching the 3% or whatever,
Mm.
I would have said continue.
mhm.
Um, but outside of that, and you're under a certain age, you're not 50 and trying to retire in 10 years, but you're 40 and you've got some time. So I think it all depends, but more six-figure debt is a lot. And so you kind of have to be,
You have to be locked in when
yeah,
like you
really
have.
serious about that. It's not like a $20,000 or $30,000 credit card debt.
Yeah.
Especially when you're ordering Uber Eats and spending $1,000, $1,500 a month on Uber Eats, and yet you got a 20, 30. Yeah, you can handle that. So I'm late, so I do apologize if this was mentioned earlier. What type of accommodations do you select? House sitting, Airbnb?
So you haven't mentioned this, so you're right on time. But
Yes.
I am doing Airbnbs and looking for house sits. That's why I started house sitting in September last year. So I have a couple of ratings, all of that. And so I will be looking for house sits, but as of right now, it is Airbnbs because for a month-long stay, I just need that accommodation that has a kitchen where I can work from, be comfortable. I'm not, changing accommodations every other week because I can't do that.
Yeah. That back to that whole travel thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's too much.
It is.
It's too much. Any plans to go to the motherland?
Yep.
He's
I
and
don't.
and and I don't know that. I mean, do we consider Egypt and Morocco? I mean, I know technically they are on the continent of Africa.
That's Africa. Well, yes, I do want. I mean, there are so many countries in Africa that I want to get to. Um, I don't know when. I don't know if it'll be this year or maybe next year. But like Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Tanzania, Namibia, Morocco, Egypt, like so many countries.
So a friend of ours really likes Rwanda,
Really?
the capital. Yeah. And she said it is crystal clean. So I
Mm,
guess after they had their, craziness back in what, the 70s,
Hmm.
80s,
that was 90s.
80s?
Because I remember
No, was it that late?
it was because I remember I was like old enough
Okay.
to like recognize what
That
was
wasn't that long ago. That wasn't
mm-mm,
that long ago. And
no, it was
so, it's even on her list as a possible relocation. But
really.
see, yeah. So I think it's definitely worth a visit. But I think and for me, it's still too authoritarian.
Mm,
And which is what probably one of the reasons why it's so clean.
yeah.
Like they might lock you up for spitting on the ground or something.
Oh,
But apparently very modern and all of that. So
I do,
they've invested a lot.
I do look back to go back to Africa.
Oh yeah.
I definitely want to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and so Lucille, we kind of talked about this with the go with the flow, and she's got a list, and you plan about 2 or 3 months in advance, right?
yeah. I've got a list, but I'm open to being flexible. So
Yeah, and do you have like a saved search on Google Flights? So when those flights come down to like something stupid, it's like, oh,
I don't, so, and this is probably something I should do and will may start doing is I don't research a lot on flights because I am a little bit bougie when it comes to travel because go back to what we were saying earlier is that traveling days are hard. So some of the things I try to do to make it as comfortable as possible is I will upgrade a flight when I want, if I can afford it and it's, feasible. Like my flight to Athens, I'm taking business class because most of it was paid in points and I could have paid for the entire flight with points if I wanted if I went economy. Um, but it was an extra or an additional $80 for business class. So it's a 4-hour flight about. I was like, I'm going to spend the 80.
hey, I get it. We back in 2018 when our flight back from Europe to the United States, we flew first class. Our first time flying first class
Hmm.
with with seats that go all the way back, and
Wow.
I understand why people travel that way,
hmm
especially because I hate the getting there part. So I understand.
Right.
It is not in our budget, and we don't have enough points for that on a regular basis.
No.
Um, but I get it.
How many bags am I traveling with? So I have a carry-on. Um, and I was trying to just do carry-on, and I made it from San Antonio, New Jersey with just carry-on. I had a bag, and a suitcase, but there was carry-on size, and I couldn't do it. And so when I was in Jersey, I bought a suitcase big enough that I have to check. So I have a suitcase and a bag. So
So,
bags.
so a suitcase and a carry-on is what is
Mhm. Yeah.
your whole life is in a suitcase and a carry-on, besides the couple of boxes at your
My
brother's.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So we couldn't do it because I have to have my sheets and my fluffy towel sheets. I don't like little
Mhm.
towels.
Yeah.
I want the towel to wrap around me. We're spoiled, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
So when we were traveling for 4 months in the last summer, I had a set of sheets with us, and we, what do you call it, vacuum sealed them or whatever, so
Hmm.
that it was smushed down, but they still weigh what they weigh.
Yeah.
So that means less clothes. So yeah, that is remarkable. Oh, hey, glass half full. So she's got the same insurance, IMG. Um, great, great, great. Valerina asks, what has been your biggest or best surprise when interacting with the people you've met in the countries you have visited so far? And that's so when you were in Central America, you said right after college?
Yes. Yep.
Were you working down there?
I was teaching English as a second language at an elementary school. So it was a volunteer program similar to what's the one from the Department of State that's 2 years?
I'm not sure. It's not America Teaches or something like that.
No.
Okay.
Why can't I think of it? But yeah, it was through like a program out of Harvard, and they had volunteers who you had to have a degree. So most of us were early 20s, recent college grads. Some people were older and career changes and whatnot. And we were split up in different parts of Costa Rica, and we taught at an elementary school and lived with a host family. Um,
And how did you feed yourself? Like if you're volunteering?
So that was part of the agreement they had with the host family. So the host family, they cooked meal, like we had meals through them and all that stuff. We did get like a small monthly stipend.
Hmm.
Okay.
um, and a lot of us, just worked. So it was, I graduated in May, and we didn't leave until, or that didn't start until January 2005. So I graduated May 2004. And so I left for Costa Rica in January 2005. So in that in between, I worked and saved money.
Save money to for incidentals and stuff like that. Yeah,
Right.
because that I know I need money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was also 22, 23 years old, hadn't worked full time, so wasn't used to having money. I
Anyway,
couldn't do it now. No. But
right. And what has been the biggest turnoffs? Oh, wait, we didn't answer the last question because I got you off track. So your biggest or best surprise, sorry, Ballerina, biggest or best surprise when interacting with the people that you've met. So one of the things you said is you were surprised by how little English was spoken.
mhm.
But what else?
Um, so going back to that real quick, I don't know if it's actually true because when you ask like if they speak English and they'll say, "Oh, a little bit," right? And then they'll start speaking. I'm like, "You know more English, right?" But
Yeah.
it's like that modesty or like that they don't, not that they don't want to try, but it's
And
that
insecurity.
the insecurity, right? That fear. And I get it, right? In speaking Spanish, like I'm hesitant too. And then someone starts speaking to me and they're surprised when I, reply and they're like, Spanish, right? But so I get that. But the biggest surprise, I don't know. Part of me feels like I haven't been doing this long enough to be surprised just yet. I would say I think maybe kind of how metropolitan Lisbon is. Like I think maybe for years there was like this reputation that it was like this slow paced, or maybe even all European cities are just like slow paced and whatever. But when I'm going to like my co-working spot, like people are on that metro and they are going to work and holding down the 9 to 5 and whatever and about their business. So it's not like everyone's siestaing all day long, right? Like
Oh
people
no.
work and have families and all of that. Also, so my Airbnb right now is I just have a private accommodations inside of an apartment. So the host, she's actually there, and her daughter is there. And kind of like in the first week I was there, I was having a conversation with her daughter, who actually lives in Berlin. Um, and she's in her late 20s, and she was talking about how a lot of the people she was talking with, younger generation in Portugal, feel like they can't live in Portugal and have to like move out in order to like find
Mm,
employment that pays them decent enough to be able to afford to live. So that
yeah.
was surprising because like in the US I heard about like, increasing prices in Lisbon or Portugal in general and other countries as well. But like hearing it from someone who is from Portugal, who speaks the language, who
Mhm.
has friends there, hearing that like, no, these are things that the people on the ground are actually talking about and not
Oh
just
yeah.
outsiders. So
Oh yeah. And I get it. If the average salary here is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500, the average rent that we've seen is 1,500.
right, right.
So
And the teachers just on strike, what, last week, right?
Yes. Yes, yeah. I just saw that on the news yesterday. They were striking. So absolutely. I'm going to put, we're talking about all this money stuff. I'm putting our course in the chat again. But let's go back to that other question. And I think, I am not amazed anymore, but what I love the diversity, and I love the fact that when we walk around, I just hear so many languages.
Yeah, you do.
It's hard for me to discern. Part of me is like, and I love that too. But one thing for me is I think it's really hard for me to like learn a new language. And so I have a hard time deciphering, like, I'm like, is that Portuguese or is that French they're speaking? Right. And then
Ah,
I'm like, oh, is that Spanish? Like, so sometimes like something will catch my ear and I'm like, oh, I understood that. And it'll take me a second to realize, like, oh, that's like a
that's
Spanish
Spanish.
person. That's
Yeah.
and then sometimes someone will say something in Portuguese that like is very similar to Spanish, and I like realize it, or it's just like something I like learned since I've been here, and I'm like, wait, what language is that? And so it is interesting. I love hearing the different languages. I just don't know what they are.
I I can see that. And had this been like last June, I probably would have been in the same place. But now that we hear Portuguese so much,
Mm.
I can spot off tell it. But we were in the Lisbon airport yesterday, and a black dude comes up to me and starts speaking French. I knew it was French and I knew what he said, but I didn't know because I took 7 years of French,
Mhm.
but I didn't know how to respond anymore.
Mm.
And I was like, why do you think we speak French? So I just turned to him. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak French. I said, no, I don't speak Portuguese. So don't
That's
follow up with
sometimes
that.
I find surprising, right? Because I just assume like if I give them a confused look, they're gonna understand that I don't know what they're talking about. So many times they just keep talking.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're saying. Right, and then I made the mistake of, like, just, trying to be polite and at least introducing myself or whatever with the little Portuguese I have learned. So I'd be like, "Boa tarde," or, "Bom dia," or whatever, and then they start speaking, and then I'd be like this happened actually in the Uber. I got in, and the woman said, "Desculpe," and I was like, "Okay," and then she kept going, and I was like, "Sorry,
I
English?"
lost you at sorry or
Right,
excuse me. That was it. That
right.
was all of it. And they don't pronounce that last vowel.
Yes,
So boa
which
tarde.
and I did
I
it when
know, girl.
I was learning Spanish, for years. If you take a Spanish class, one of the things they'll say is like, "Oh, Spanish is the easiest language to learn because everything is phonetic, right?
Pronounced. Right.
It's written the way it's stated." And for years, I was like, because it takes me so long to pick up language, I was like, "This is not easy. What are they talking about?" And now I get it because,
Yes.
like I said, the words on the paper do not align with what is coming out of their mouths. And so reading, I may be able to understand some of what's happening, but as soon as they start talking.
Yeah. I really rely on the written word. And what has been your biggest turnoffs? Ooh.
So I will say my biggest one so far is I know that I will never say never, but I will, if I can help it, will not do a shared accommodation, or renting like a private room in
Mm.
someone's home again. Um, just at this stage in my life, like, and I was hesitant to do it in the first place, but I was like, it's my first stop. Maybe this person can, help introduce me to the city, and she has been helpful in that regard. Um, but no, no. Um, so I need private accommodations. I need my own space. I'm an adult. I don't want someone standing over me telling me how things are done. I get it. It's your home and you want things specific, but get out of my face. Sorry if that sounds harsh, but that's
No.
been the biggest turn off.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm
I
trying to
get
think
it.
of the
I
others.
get it.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a little condescension when because it's been cold and the inside of Portuguese buildings, apartment buildings are cold. And
Yes.
I feel like there was a little gaslighting because she doesn't want to use like the heat. and turn it up. And I'm not the only person staying. There's another woman from Canada, a Black woman from Canada, and she and I have hit it off, and we like, we'll sometimes talk. And she was like, "It's cold. I don't like." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. It's not just me. Like, it's yeah." So
I have to say, so when our landlord comes into our apartment, the heat is blasting. It's blasting. But I pay the bill
yeah.
up in this mug. And so, I try to only have the heat on in one room. I close the door because here in the UK as well, every room has a door that you can close. Let's
Hmm.
keep the heat trapped in. So at least I'm not being inefficient, but I don't
Right.
want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not about that life,
No. Yeah, so
right?
here I have like the heat here in this Airbnb where I'm at in Porto. Heat has been on since I got here. I mean, I turn
Mm.
it off when I leave, but I just like I need a weekend where I don't hear anyone talking about like the heat and it's not uncomfortable. Like it's in Lisbon, the Airbnb where I'm saying it's uncomfortably cold. And it wouldn't be so bad, but I work from home, right? And
Right.
so the days where I don't go to the co-working spot, I'm working, my fingers are like so cold, but I can't like put gloves on because I'm typing. So that's yeah. So that's something that has
I'm
not.
sorry. I'm sorry. I think you would have had a different Lisbon experience had you
Yeah,
had your own space and not been perpetually cold.
I think
So Antonio is feeling some kind of way by us saying that Portuguese sounds a bit like an Eastern European language. Antonio, when you grow up basically only hearing one language, well, there's a lot of Spanish spoken in Western United States, a lot. So kind of one and a half languages. We can only go by movies and things, and
mhm,
so we do not mean to be offensive or anything like that. And then the other thing about Russian is they have a totally different alphabet or symbols for their alphabet, so you've got to learn that plus the language. No.
that's what makes me nervous about Greece, right? Like they
Mm.
different alphabet,
Yes, they do, don't they?
different language. So I've already a little bit been looking up just like basics, right? How do I say hello? How to because I'm also in a Facebook group for expats in Greece, right? Or specifically Athens. And there have been people that be like, I tried to like communicate with this service company and they hung up as soon as they heard I don't speak Greek, right? Or someone she was saying like she had moved here with her husband and she was walking down the street with her daughter and was speaking English to her daughter and some like woman came out of nowhere and started like yelling at her for speaking English. So I was like, okay.
Ooh,
I was
yeah. Well, there's always going to be the grumpies, right? And and interestingly, so Greece, they had their economic issues, right?
Mhm.
Italy, economic issues, Spain, economic issues, Portugal, economic issues, um, and then they see you living your best life. What they don't know is what you had to go through to get there, right? And so the idea of financial independence really is available to most folks in developed countries, and I air quote developed countries. Not everyone, I get it, because stuff happens and cycles and this and that, but for the most part it is available. Now, does that mean you're going to be living large? No, not
Mm.
necessarily, but you don't have to be living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
um, do you actively look to go to places that have a digital nomad visa, or do you just enter on a basic tourist card or visa? Oh, good question.
So as of right now, I'm just doing the basic tourist visa, but I am eyeing a few countries who have new digital nomad visas. So Portugal is still one,
Mhm.
but Spain, I would really love to spend a year in Spain. Greece has one. I haven't been there yet, so who knows? My opinion may change, but I don't think I would apply for theirs. But also Croatia has one.
Mhm.
Um, so I am looking at those countries and figuring out like what are the requirements, what is the paperwork like? Because if it's a hassle with paperwork, then I'm not.
right? And hopefully you wouldn't have to go back to your home country to
That's the
do
thing
that,
too, because
right?
I was just reading an article for Spain's digital nomad visa, and they need FBI fingerprints and all that. And I'm like, well, how am I going to do that? But then the advice in the article was saying like you need to what does it say? It's best to apply in country.
In
And I'm
country.
like,
Yeah.
how am I going to get my FBI records?
Oh, we can tell you how to do that.
Oh, okay.
So because we had to do that. We did it from Mexico. So you go online as if you're going to do it all digitally, and you fill out the paperwork digitally, and you pay, electronically, and
Mm-hmm.
then you FedEx your fingerprints. And actually, did we ever do that video? I don't know that we ever did that video,
We
but
never
there's
did it. We
there's
didn't do
so
it.
when you mail it, you just have to put on there something like digital application or something like that. If you call the FBI, y'all, they will walk you through this process, because they walked us through it, and they said, don't
Oh,
worry about it. So he said, you can, he told us the form number. He said, you can print that off on regular print paper and put your fingerprints on. But Rick was like, nah, nah, nah. So we had to go get cardstock.
Well, yes, it's to me it seemed a whole lot better, more official if you had them send the what they needed on a pen drive or PDF
Yeah.
and then printed it to cardstock at a Kinko's or whatever print shop.
Yeah.
And then now you have all the things that are they have all the information that you need to put your fingerprints and how to put your fingerprint
So
if you have to do them by yourself.
we went to Walmart in Mexico and got an ink pad and did this and then did that and did this and
Just
did
practice
yes,
them. Try to make them as clean and legible
as
as
possible. So I sent 3 versions. He sent 2.
I sent 2 versions,
And they
just in case.
accepted. So they accepted it, and we got our clearance. And yeah, and so we got it, the email as well as the sealed document. So yeah, it can be done. It can be done. You do not have to go back to get
Yeah,
that done.
if police stations or government institutions in places that you are at outside of the United States, if you could find that, that's great.
Let them do your
Yeah,
fingerprints
let
for you.
them do them because they'll do the bio stuff. A lot of those will do that, but then there's a lot that don't do it.
Yeah.
Could you
So
do
we
like
could
an embassy?
not
No.
in Mexico,
U.S.
not in
Embassy in Mexico didn't do it.
yeah. Now that could vary embassy to embassy, but in Puerto Vallarta, they weren't trying to.
And the police department didn't do it.
They didn't do it either.
Okay.
So we had to do it ourselves, and it worked.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. I'll probably be messaging you and asking you again how that works.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So Artwork Inside, if you're not already, Rick and Halisi, are you guys planning to sightsee? Will you do any UK content? We do plan on it.
If the weather agrees.
If we don't freeze our patooties off, because we ain't Denverites anymore. I did bring my fleece tights and scarf and hat and gloves. So we are prepared to, it's not snow on the ground. It's just cold.
It's just cold and wet.
Damp. Yeah.
And to be fair, the sun did peep out a hole about that big, opened up in the cloud.
We saw a little bit of sunshine.
It was like, okay, yeah, we ain't going nowhere.
We saw a little bit of sunshine.
And we were tired too, so probably when we get up in the morning, we'll feel a whole lot better.
Yeah, then 4:30, we got 4 hours sleep. So, so Valerina says Rwanda, she hears, is very safe for solo female travelers. Yeah, we've heard that as well. All right, y'all. Peace Corps. It wasn't Peace Corps. I was thinking Peace Corps. Or
Peace
AmeriCorps.
Corps is one. AmeriCorps is another one.
It was Peace Corps I was thinking of because AmeriCorps is in the US, Peace Corps is abroad.
Okay.
Similar to Peace Corps, but Peace Corps is what, like a 27-month commitment, something like that. So this was only a year-long program that I did.
Yeah, the folks that we knew who did it, they were gone for 3 years in Nicaragua. So yeah, and they came back when Trump was elected to help with the fight. I was like, you came back? You came back? The So Greta says the first time I flew first class, it was because I was a solo traveler and a mother was traveling with a child. I was like, this is living, right? I'm telling you. All right, y'all. If you don't have any more questions, we are gonna wrap up. I think because we definitely want to have you back after it's been like a year on the road and see how things have changed. But I think if you're like us and the notion that getting there is such a pain, that slow travel is definitely the route to go. And if we weren't trying to get residency, we definitely would be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
soon as we get residency, we're going to be traveling a lot more and
and
spending
that's
a month here, a month there.
for me, that's also why I've been looking at digital nomad visas, particularly in the Schengen countries, because there are so many that I want to visit that if I have that that visa in like Spain, I can stay in up to a year, and then I can go and stay in like the Netherlands for a month, which is another country I'm eyeing, or France or Germany or
Yeah,
whomever part of the Schengen zone, and not have to worry about that
I'd
90
worry about it.
Right.
Exactly. And the same with us. So there are limitations to the residency visa, the D7 residency visa, but we can be gone 5 months out of the year.
Mm,
And I don't see myself wanting to be gone more than that because there's still so much in Portugal we haven't even seen.
right.
Most of Portugal we haven't even seen. Um, so Patty's like, okay, she's here. I tried to be considerate of the Airbnb owner, but shoo, insulation may not be a thing. It's not. It's not a big thing outside the United States, period, I think, because everywhere that we've been, they've had
Concrete walls.
concrete walls. South
Mhm.
Africa was the same way. They don't have, and I think because we have central heat, we need to have the insulation because central heat is not necessarily the most efficient way to do things. What are the biggest differences between Porto and Lisbon that you've seen so far?
So Porto feels smaller than Lisbon. Porto is smaller than Lisbon, but when I say it feels smaller, it feels cozier, more cozy than Lisbon. Feels a little friendlier than Lisbon, to be honest. Um, I still believe there's like tons to do, but my Airbnb is in a location where, I was walking down the street to the small Pingo Dos not too far from me, and there are all these cute little like secondhand shops or clothing stores that I could like was walking in and looking at. Lisbon has all of that, but it feels more spread out, a little more um, metropolitan, where Porto kind of still seems to have held on to a little of its
Small town.
small town, yet
European charm. Yeah.
yeah. But which is ironic actually because my host yesterday, she was saying like, "This is not the Porto I grew up in. It doesn't feel like it feels very different." And I'm like, "Well, from your perspective, yes. From mine, like especially this is my first time in Europe. Period. This still feels like very European to me, right? But what do I know?" Um,
Yeah. And I've heard that about the friendliness. A young lady that we were speaking to in Coimbra, she was going to university there. And
mhm.
she's like, oh, I hate Lisbon. When you go, everyone's just, has their head buried in their phone. No one looks up. No one says hello and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, because this is nothing compared to the States.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's all relative.
I was gonna say it's all relative, right? And in the US, I'm like, I'm definitely one of those people like, what do you look at? Especially if I'm in like New York or something. Like, I'm just trying to get to where I'm going. Um, but in Lisbon, I definitely have noticed like everyone part of me, because I was like, I have out my phone for directions, right? If I'm walking somewhere, I will have my phone out for using Google Maps to get somewhere. And there's always like a thought in the back of my head, like, what if someone comes up and snatches my phone out of my hand? And then I look around, there's 20 other people with phones in their hands, right? And so, like, that is really common in Lisbon, like people being on their phone.
Hmm.
Obviously, I've seen it here in Porto, but there is something a little like smaller and a little more cozier, comfy about Porto.
Yeah. And Patty's talking about the language. I want to get to her comment. So Patty, y'all know she's part of the community. She's here in Portugal. She's there in Portugal because we're in the UK. And so we're going to meet up. Yay. But I would say, even though they're not as friendly in Lisbon, I feel like they're so much more caring, not than
Mhm.
Porto or Coimbra, but than the States.
Mm.
And I use the example when I was not feeling well. We were here in June, and the people who came over to me to make sure that I was okay, and one lady circled back. But I had another incident more recently, and I can't remember what it was. And it was like, see, there we go again, with
Mm.
just a human to human concern
Well, when you fell
of
and
well
hit your
being.
head.
Oh, when I fell and hit. Why you had to bring that up? Now
You
folks know
fell?
how clumsy I am, girl. So we were running to catch a train that wasn't going nowhere, and I and I think what happened was, so I have these shoes that I have to wear double socks with,
Mm.
and one came off.
Oh.
And so I stumbled, and it was right before the curb. And so I hit my head on the edge of the curb
Oh. When was this?
about a month and a half ago now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And I still have a scar on my knee.
Yeah, it's New Year's night.
It, I know it wasn't New Year's night because we spent that at home, but it was over the holidays. It was
Oh.
definitely
Uh,
around the
yeah,
holidays.
Christmas or
So
something like
yeah,
that.
in between Christmas and New Year's. And yeah.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you weren't seriously injured.
I look at it as I'm 58 years old. I fell on my ass, hit my head, and got back up
Mm.
and didn't have to go to the doctor. You know,
Yeah.
hey, take care of your body,
Yeah.
and it will take care of you. Holly and Patty says, Halisi, someone asked me why I speak Spanish if I'm an American. I was like, besides my heritage, it's basically the second language, right? It is.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I was talking to this Brit on the plane, and I just assumed he spoke Portuguese. So I was like, desculpa, and I was going to the middle seat, and then he had one of those new phones that open
Mhm.
like this, and it's like a little mini iPad. Of course, it's not Apple, but it was really cool. And 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 then he said something. I was like, "Oh, you speak English?" He said, "Yep, that's the only language I speak." And I said, "I thought most Europeans spoke more than one language." He says, "Most Europeans on the mainland." He said, "We Brits."
I was gonna ask, do Brits even consider themselves European?
I don't think they do.
I
Actually,
don't know.
I was on a day trip to Sintra last week, and there were only two other guests on the trip as well, and they were British. They were from London, and I meant to ask them, but I wonder.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I was like, when before Brexit, before they made Brexit or whatever, were they on the euro? And they're like, no, we were always on the pound.
Right.
And so I was like, I knew that I just because I had studied political science, international political science in
Right.
college.
Right.
Um, and so like it always kind of seemed, just from my American perspective, that they were like, we're with y'all, but we're not really with y'all, right? Like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
this huge empire, and it still kind of seems like they have like that notion of like,
Ask our hosts, the people who we're house sitting for when they get back. They're
yeah,
really progressive and like to talk politics. I love that you got. Oh, thank you, Hermes Addict. Are you the one who lives in France that I'm following on IG? Is that you? And I can't remember the lady's name. She is so fashionably fabulous, and I know she loves Hermes. So if that's you, hey, thank you for following. If not, hey, anyway. Yeah, Rick's gonna catch some heat up in
Thanks,
here.
Action VJ.
Okay, I think we got through all of the questions.
wait, there's a Patty O says Brits are like Texans, their own special place.
That's what I think. I think that's it.
Yeah.
So they are an island. They're not part of the mainland, and so yeah, interesting. I never thought about that, but I really, really want to hear what the hosts have to say, especially because they were not in favor of Brexit.
Mm,
and they have the same amount of complaints for their country as we have for ours. And
mhm,
although I think, it's not as bad, um, in some ways. But so yeah, I will be interested to hear what they have to say. We'll fill you guys in. We'll do a UK special and tell you what they think. So, what would you like to leave people with, Tiffany, as far as slow travel? What have you learned that were aha moments for you?
mm,
That you wish you would have known before you started this journey, etc. We like shortcuts.
I think, what do I wish I would have known? One, I think one of my biggest fears was, like, not being able to communicate with people back home,
Mm,
not, be via phone, because, I have a mom with health issues, um, just staying in contact with family. A lot of my business is, connected. I need, what is it, two-step authentication, all of that. And it's not as complicated as I spent months like thinking and putting this off because I thought I couldn't do it. It is doable. Do a little bit of research. The information, um, is there. Like there are hundreds of YouTube videos that, of digital nomads living this life, of just people traveling, who have been able to like figure things out. And so I think the biggest advice is like if you want to do it, make a plan, get your coins in order so that you can one, it's just saving up, right? And like having that fail safe, right? Of like if
yes.
something goes awry, you don't have to worry about like, can I afford a flight back home or something.
Right.
I think the Move Abroad Toolkit will help even if you're not planning to move to a place and stay stationary. But the questions, the checklist, and all of that stuff, the things that Tiffany is mentioning are in that toolkit. So it's down in the description below. There it is, bit.ly Move Abroad Toolkit. Could really be helpful. So you say get your coins in place.
Mhm, mhm. At the
You
very least, have some savings, right? Like, I'm not saying everyone has to pay off 6 figures of debt before you can hit the road. Everyone's journey is their own, but have some savings, you know?
So how much savings do you recommend? I
Um,
know it depends on what makes you feel comfortable,
right.
but some of it's some common sense too, right?
Some of it is. I would say at minimum 3 months, right? Like, the standard financial advice is 3 to 6 months. I think a lot of, like, financial pros have upped that now to 6 to 9 months, um, especially now, like, whatever is happening in the economy. But I would say at least 3 to 6 months, but also that includes knowing what your 1 month expenses are, right? What I've after however many years on this financial journey, I find it surprising that people don't know what their total monthly living expenses are. Because then, how can you start a budget, right? Like if you
Right.
don't know. So, and it just is right if you haven't done it, right? Like I didn't know how much my monthly expenses are before I started,
We didn't either.
right? So
We didn't.
I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I'm just saying like you start with the basics, right? Like
Yeah.
what is your living expenses for the month? Have that saved. If you're wanting to travel, figure out what your living expenses would be. If you're going to do slow travel, which is the most for me cost beneficial because like I said, moving, from place to place every week, that gets expensive. Um, Figure that out and then set aside at least a month or 2 to 3, or what makes you feel comfortable. I have more than that because also I work for myself, right? And so there's always kind of being, someone who, works for yourself there, as an entrepreneur, there is that always that thought in the back of your head, right? Because I'm thinking on 2 budgets, right? Not just my personal budget, but my
Right.
business budget as well, and
Right. Yep.
so everyone's financial situation is unique. If there is anything else, try to make contacts in wherever you're going ahead of time. Um, Even if it's just joining a couple of Facebook groups,
Yeah.
that's me. That's how
Mm.
I found, and that's how you and I met, right? Because
Yeah.
back in Portugal on Facebook, and I just saw, I think, yeah, like within a day or two of me being there, I saw that they were having an event that Saturday night. So that's when I went out to dinner. But also, it's just like if you get into the country and you have a question on how to do something, the best place to go is, one of those groups where people who live
Yeah.
there and can help at least point you in the right direction. So,
D- Definitely. Definitely. Great advice. Great
Definitely.
advice. Um, and, interestingly, your journey to financial independence could start from being a digital nomad and lowering those costs, not having to pay three, four, five, $600 a month for your car and your car insurance,
mhm.
for instance, right? Just eliminating that bill, that money can then go towards your debt. So, in that case, you want to look at countries that have a great exchange rate as far as the dollar to euro is. But in some of the countries, you still can live less expensively than you live in the United States. And if you're making American money, then that money can go to help you pay off debt while you are, living your life. And
Yeah.
so that could be part of the plan, but there has to be a plan.
Right,
There has
right.
to be a plan. Don't just get out there willy-nilly. And so if you need help with that, we've got scrolling along the bottom beyond the bling. It's ourblackutopia.thinkific.com for our course. And the pre-sale has already started. Again, we are starting the group sessions in the middle of February. So to get all of the group sessions, you want to make sure that you are getting the self-paced course before the middle of February. And I know Greta gave a ringing endorsement, so we appreciate that, Greta. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And then what you should watch next, we did a video on a scouting trip. The checklist that you should look at as a scouting trip for a
Mm.
scouting trip. You probably could adapt that also for where you pick next if digital nomad life is what you are thinking about, right? Because there's a lot of similarities. You're not going to someplace just to vacation. You still have to work there and be able to function and do all of those things for the month, 2 months, 3 months that you plan to be there. So yeah, I think that can work for you. And a link to that should be in the description below. If not, we will put it in. I'll double check our scouting trip list. Yeah, and the video. And we're going to do a video. Our next live on Thursday is going to be about cell phone service
Mm, that
because
is,
we landed in Leeds and had no service. So I don't know what was happening with Google Fi, but I was just trying to see where are we. I couldn't. So until I
Yeah.
logged into the Wi-Fi for the airport, I couldn't even tell you where I was. I don't know. I don't know. So, all right. Last question, Marjorie. You are going to close out this session. Would you recommend someone travel standby on international flights? I have benefits of a previous employer and would like to hop around different places and check them out.
was that for me?
I
Um,
think we both can chime in on that.
I can't because I've never flown standby, so I don't know quite how that works.
Yeah.
Um, for me,
Yeah.
I think I've avoided standby because like I get too nervous about like I have accommodations for this night. Who says I'm going to be able to get on, that flight or not? So it could work if it's a way for if you are flexible in your accommodations and where you want to go. I think it could be a good money saving tip for the cost of travel. So
Yeah.
I think it's an individual um,
And
answer.
I think so. Last night, our flight from Lisbon to Manchester was what 30% empty.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you would have gotten on that flight,
It wasn't a
and
full flight at
yeah,
all.
and so I don't know, if, like, let's just say you have lifetime with American Airlines or Delta Airlines, and then whatever alliance they belong to, I know United is part of Star Alliance, so I'm not sure if that standby allows you to go for everything in the Star Alliance or just for the airline that you worked for. But we used to fly standby on Southwest because we had family members that worked for Southwest and for Frontier. And yeah, as long as you can remain flexible.
Yeah.
A lot of these jumps from city to city over here are not full because they are so often. So it could work.
Mm-hmm.
It could work. But you've got to have that flexibility. If you've rented the Airbnb for the whole month and you arrive a day late, is it that big of a deal?
Right.
But if you're at a hotel at $150 a night, see, I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling that. I was not happy that we did not get our free breakfast and only had 4 hours sleep. I was not happy. So with that, we are going to let y'all go. We will see you. Will we see them this Thursday or is
Somebody
it
asked
next
me
Thursday?
about food.
Yeah. Where was that?
It was further down. But anyway, the food here,
Oh, food here.
I mean, it's good. It's just like in the United States. We haven't gone out to eat or anything like that, but I had chicken and ribs.
Yeah. Was it good?
They were pretty good.
Yeah. The chicken was great.
Chicken was real good.
It was supposed to be fried chicken and see, connection issues. The Uber driver, the Uber Eats guy was waiting out there. So I don't know if it got a little soggy, but they've got an air fryer. So I crisped it right back up and it was good. Love your website, Tiffany. Which one of your books is your favorite? I'm looking to buy one right now. Oh, thank you, Auntie Trey.
Thank you. So, which one is my favorite? That's like asking which is my favorite kid. I can't say which is my favorite. If you're looking to buy, I love them all. If you're looking to buy, I would say start with Black Pearl. That is available on Amazon, and the ebook is free. And that's my very first book, but it's a good introduction into my style of writing. So yes, that I would start with Black Pearl. It is about a burlesque dancer who falls in love with her boss, CEO, billionaire boss. I write billionaire romance because I don't need
Cinderella stories. I love it. Okay. I'm going to get it too. I love romance. I love it. And on that, we want you to fall in love with your life. If you don't love your life, there is an answer. There is an answer, and it is called financial independence, financial freedom. Everything else is secondary. Like they say money doesn't buy happiness. No, but it buys convenience and takes the stress off. If you need to see a therapist, you can buy those sessions. You can afford those sessions, etc. So definitely, think about the course. And otherwise, we will see you on the road as you build your own utopia. Love y'all.
Night.
Bye.
Hello, everybody.